Hello and welcome to a new video. In this video, I will be recoding variables based on theory as well as on the results obtained from correspondence analysis. In the first part of this video, I will show you the logic behind recoding two variables to demonstrate my thought process. Then, in the second part of this video, I will show you how to actually recode the variables. So, for the first part of this video, where I will explain the logic behind the recoding of variables, we need to think back and remember the first part of this course, where I mentioned that there are two types or two ways to start the analysis. The first of these is to directly recode all the variables according to theoretical support, where the second option is to first analyze the dataset and then, based on theoretical support but also on the results observed using descriptive analysis techniques, perform the recoding. This latter method is very useful in cases where we do not have or cannot find sufficient information for each variable. For example, in my study, I did not find enough sources about each variable, such as the variable that measures the frequency of alcohol consumption and how much walking is recommended. According to the analyses I conducted, especially the correspondence analysis, we can observe that we have a graph here where our dependent variable, which is perceived health, i.e. HS1, is illustrated in blue, and the second variable is P3, meaning the frequency of walking. Thus, we can observe that categories 4, 5, and 3 of the P3 variable are very close to each other, forming what we can call a cluster, meaning we have several values grouped in the same place. We can also see that category 2 is not exactly in the same cluster, as it has a different cluster of its own. We can also notice that category 1 is distinctly distant from the other two clusters, meaning that this category creates its own cluster. We can also draw certain conclusions regarding the relationship between the two variables and their categories in the sense that we can say that categories 4, 5, and 3, as well as category 2, correspond to positive health because categories 1 and 2 of the HS1 variable are good and very good, while category 1 has a much stronger correlation with the more negative categories of the HS1 variable, meaning categories 4 and 5. From these observations, we can regroup these categories as follows: categories 3, 4, and 5 of the P3 variable should constitute a single category, and categories 2 and 1 should remain as two distinct categories. Thus, from 5 categories, we have created 3 categories. Through correspondence analysis, we can compress the number of categories if we observe very large similarities between the categories of the analyzed variable. Also, for the next graph, please excuse the screenshot, I didn't take it very well, but we can observe that we have two variables, again the dependent variable, which this time is coded in red on the graph, and the independent variable, i.e., the frequency of alcohol consumption, which is coded in blue. In this graph, we can observe, if we look at the blue color, implicitly at the AL1 variable, that categories 1 to 7 create a cluster, meaning they are very close to each other, while categories 8 and 9 are at a considerable distance from each other and from the cluster. Thus, based on this observation, since we do not have information according to theoretical support, meaning we do not have recommendations on how to group these categories, we can merge them and create the corresponding number of categories or clusters that we see, meaning 3 categories or 3 clusters. Perfect. In what follows, I will show you how we can recode variables in SPSS, and this step is very important as we prepare the data for final analysis. I will explain the steps for the first 2 variables, and then we will do an exercise where I will let you recode the following variables, after which I will show you how I did it, or the solution to the exercise. But this will be shown in fast forward. You can slow down the video from the settings on Udemy, okay? So the first thing we need to do is open the database, then click on Transform, and then on Recode into different variables. So, we will select the perceived health variable, HS1, which we will rename as HS1 cat. Then, we will click on Old and New Values, and here we will assign the new codes to the variable. Finally, we will click on Continue, then click on the Change button, and after that, we will click on OK. In the output window, we can see the recoding we have done. And to check if we did the coding correctly, we can go to the Data View menu to see if they were done as we wanted. Yes, it's perfect. Now we will continue with the next variable, which is hat level. We will name it with the same logic as before by adding cat to the name. Then we will select old and new values. Now we will modify the variable's coding with the new codes. Then we will select Continue and click on Change. Don't forget to click on this button, and then we will press OK. In the output that just opened, we can check if the recoding was done exactly as we wanted. Okay, now I will display the recoding for each variable on the screen, and I will let you search for the rest of the variables. I will give you a 10-second break to pause this video, after which I will show you how it should have been done, but the video will be in fast forward. So, you can slow down the speed from the video settings on Udemy to follow along. If not, I will also leave the database in the resources section. I hope you like the background music this time. Perfect. I hope it wasn't too complicated and that you managed to keep up. If not, you can always go back to better understand the steps. Now, in the next part of this video, we need to assign labels to each category to make the upcoming analysis easier. These new labels will describe the newly created categories. For example, for the first variable, or the dependent variable HS1, which represents healthy, and category 2, unhealthy. Once again, I will display the category names on the screen so you can modify them exactly as I did for the remaining variables, and I will fast forward until I finish this as well. Okay, I hope it wasn't too difficult and that it didn't take you too much time. As a hint, this recoding can also be done using code, but since this course is for beginners, I won't show you that method. Okay, now the last thing we need to do is to delete the old variables and keep only the newly created ones, as the old ones won't help us anymore since we will only use the new ones in the upcoming analysis. Perfect. I hope you enjoyed this video and that it wasn't too complicated. If you like this course, please consider leaving a positive review and 5 stars. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them directly on Udemy, and I will answer them when I have the time and opportunity. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.